Welcome to the Conversations Across the Grand Canyon podcast, aka The Big Gap. Here, our purpose will be to explore the impacts of social, political, and economic issues through the lens of generational and cultural differences. Great day, everyone. This is Al Perry, the host of the Conversations Across the Grand Canyon podcast, also known as The Big Gap. I would like to begin this episode by noting that earlier this week we ran the gamut and completed the primary election period or season. The runoffs are completed here in the state of Georgia, and I'd have to say this campaign season, well, not just this one, but previous ones. But for some reason, this last one, it was so annoying and tiresome to me. The just constant display on your television sets, the campaign commercials, the negativity. It was just so irksome and tiresome, and I just couldn't wait for it to be over. And thankfully, now that the political opponents are set, we get a little bit of a break of all the negative campaigning and particularly on the Republican side, of the cannibalism that we witnessed in order to, clinch this spot to be the candidate for the various offices. And it was, like I said, it was just, we've come to a point now in American politics that it's no quarter given, win at all costs, win by any means necessary, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that's just tired of it. So now we get a little, like I said, we get a little bit of a break. Hopefully, campaign commercials and whatnot. Like I said, all the negativity will hold off until after our 250th celebrations on July 4th, before it all kicks in again. And we've got several months of negativity, vitriol, accusations, the whole thing that we've now come to expect of our political campaigns. So, with that being said and done, I just wanted to get that off my chest a little bit. And I'm sure, like I said, I'm not the only one who's been just disgusted, really. And I'm really not looking forward to what's ahead. I guess what's been happening, unfortunately, the American voting public has entered an era where, to a significant extent, It doesn't even pretend to value honesty, character, or integrity in our candidates for public office. I know my opinion may be construed to be a bit hyperbolic, but however, from a generational standpoint, moral standards are being replaced with a tilt towards transactional behavior and concerns, where political value is measured strictly by the elements of populism that favor calculated situational interactions. This type of attitude is strong in the mindset of one issue voters in particular, whether that one issue be immigration, abortion, crime, social justice, voting rights, or the environment. And it's unfortunate that we have slowly evolved into this situation. Let's give you an example, I guess. Donald Trump was elected president despite a finding of liability in a sexual abuse case and business fraud felony convictions in the state of New York. Now, if that's not a result of putting transactional interest above all else, I don't know what is. Like the Georgia Republican gubernatorial campaign between Burt Jones and Rick Jackson. Both of them claimed to be endorsed by President Trump. On Rick Jackson's part, that claim was spurious to say the least. A little disingenuous. And the negative campaign that flew back and forth between the two of them, if you to believe some of what each campaign was saying about the other, then, and there was some truth, a little truth in some of the negativity they were casting upon each other. Here again, we, the electorate here in Georgia, we are going to have to choose between two, or we did, the Republican Party had to choose between two flawed candidates. One candidate had the huge advantage of being able to self-fund his campaign. Rick Jackson spent upwards of $100 million of his own money to win that primary. $100 million. I imagine that's got to be some kind of record here in the state of Georgia. And I'm sure I'm like, there are other people out there like me who always have in the back of my mind, always wondering, why would someone invest so much, a king's fortune, to win a public office? I've always kind of wondered about that, had my cynical reasons for, or I forged a cynical opinion about that, which I'm not going to go into. But the implication should be fairly clear. And as the campaign was winding down, Burt Jones was always, invoking, that he and Brian Kemp, we're a team, we're together. We've done this, that, and the other thing for the state of Georgia. He always espoused that he shared in that success. That Brian Kemp, espoused, anytime he was on the celebrating a new manufacturer coming to the state of Georgia, or a new infrastructure project, jobs reports, lowering taxes, all of those things. Burt Jones was right beside him, fighting hard with him to get those things done. What was interesting is, although all of that is probably true, I couldn't understand why Brian Kemp waited until like the day before the Tuesday primary? Like the day before, I know it was no more than 2 days, but I think it was the day before, that he actually got up in front of TV cameras and formally announced that he was supporting Burt Jones. The day before the election day. And I remember looking at the televised event, and Kemp is at the podium giving his endorsement so late in the game. And I was looking at Burt Jones standing behind him with his family, and he did not look happy at all. He had this dour, sour expression on his face. No doubt thinking like I was thinking. Why are you doing this so late? Why did you wait to do this the day before election day? I think that expression on Burt Jones's face kind of told the story. He knew it was over. He knew it was over. And sure enough, he lost the primary to an upstart billionaire. So now, the die is cast, the field is set, so we'll see what comes of it all. And one thing for sure, like I said, get ready for no holds barred, exaggerations and innuendo, negative campaigning right and left, huge amounts of money being spent. And we, the citizens of Georgia, will have to endure it all. And and to our consternation, we'll finally get a result in November and see what the next, or get a little bit of a hint of what the next 4 years of our political, social, cultural future will be here in the state. I'd like to switch subjects right now. As you may know, I live here in Twiggs County. I live in the very northern part of Twiggs County, up close to Highway 57. And living here in the county now since 2007, there's a lot about living in a rural area like this. It's quiet, it's peaceful. You can enjoy, you know, nature. You can feel at home, especially for a person who's retired like myself. And since I've been here, I've sort of, civically engaged. I attend most of my county commission meetings, and it was it was kind of contentious and touch and go as far as our county government used to be when I first moved here. Our budget was just one tax anticipation loan, basically one after the other, always in deficit, always acrimony between the citizens here and certain county commissioners, blah, blah, blah. Okay. But the tide turned a little bit, and we got some new commissioners, and we finally got fed up and disgusted, and new commissioners were voted in, and they were fiscally responsible, and they steadfastly got things back on track as far as our budget, and we've been a balanced budget, I dare say with a surplus, for a number of years now. Kudos to those 5 gentlemen who endeavored to turn things around and get things back on track and gain the respect of the taxpayers and the citizens here in Twiggs County. One of the bright spots here in the county is all of the infrastructure projects that are going on, the many improvements to public safety and whatnot. And going to the commission meetings, I guess for the last at least 2 years, maybe more, it's been interesting looking at the agenda of all those commission meetings for the last, like I said, 2 years or more, that hardly an agenda doesn't include some information or an approve or the commission seeking approval or voting on some project that's going to increase our tax base and improve water, sewer, all over the county. And I want to take a minute to acknowledge what made all of this improvement, not just here in Twiggs County, but all over Middle Georgia, all over Georgia. In 2021, Joe Biden was able to pass some legislation in the midst of the pandemic, the coronavirus pandemic that we suffered through. Terrible, terrible period in our recent history. I'm telling you, I hope we never, ever have to go through something like that again. Please, dear Lord, spare us another time like that. It took extraordinary effort to get through it. Millions of lives were lost in this country, tens of millions around the world. But in order to get through that, what it did to our economy, Joe Biden was able to pass with pretty much only Democratic support the American Rescue Plan Act. $1.9 trillion that act provided to help us get through those terrible times. What did that act provide? Direct stimulus payments. I think it was the third one of $1,400 to every American. Enhanced unemployment benefits, expanded child tax credits, state, local, and tribal aid, education and child care funding, housing and utility assistance, and last but not least, health and vaccine distribution. As part of that state, local, and tribal aid, $350 billion as part of the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds, which allow direct allocations to invest in long-term community assets. Now here in Twiggs County, I'm not sure exactly how much we got millions, let's say. I could be wrong, but it was enough money to invest in our water infrastructure, our sewer and stormwater, and I'm not sure, but perhaps even to provide or expand our broadband internet access coverage. And then the plan, or those recovery funds, were expanded to include road and bridge projects, public safety buildings, and cyber security upgrades. So now, here in Twiggs County, we used to have a volunteer. When I first moved here, we used to have a volunteer fire department. Because of those recovery funds, we've been able to have a 24/7 manned fire stations. Under those public buildings, we've been able to build new fire stations to expand our fire coverage. Those recovery funds is part of not only the safety buildings, but the water and infrastructure projects. We've been able to provide drinking water and fire hydrants in the county. And I live in a portion of the county that it'll be a little while before those fire hydrants come down to my portion of the road that I live on. But I got hope that it'll eventually get here. Nonetheless, the improvements are made will the county as a whole will help towards improving the county's fire rating, and that in and of itself will lower my homeowner's insurance. And I just wanted to take a moment to offer my appreciation for what the American Rescue Plan Act did for this county and for counties all over Georgia. Case in point, recently down in Telfair County, it was on our local news channel for a couple of days. They were talking about it. Telfair County, they were able to build a public safety complex where the police or law enforcement, main fire station, emergency medical personnel, ambulance service, all in one location. There's no way they could have done that without that American Rescue Plan money. That money freed up counties from having to spend their local tax revenues on those things. They could spend more of the county taxpayers' money on things that are important to those individual counties. They can make improvements like here in Twiggs County, make improvements to the water, sewer, to entice new development, which is certainly happening here in Twiggs County. And I guess I just wanted to bring that up, more or less. It occurred to me in this election season how things are couched in ways that seem negative, and we do things, like I said, in a transactional manner instead of looking at the real impact of what these things are doing. Case in point, I said earlier, rescue plan was passed without hardly any Republican support. Yet when that money was allocated, when the people were able to rebuild, able to use that money to supplement or to replace what was lost. Schools were closed, people were out of work. Anything public facing, restaurants, schools, everything was in turmoil. And that money helped to replace that lost tax revenue in order for people to get their feet back up under them. You would think that would be a no-brainer. But like I said earlier, one issue voters, taxes, the deficit. Damn that. People are dying. Businesses are closed. Schools are closed. You got to do what you got to do. And after that money got distributed and was starting to do all the good in the world, those Republicans that voted against it hypocritically praising that they were just a part of the government that provided them their release, that provided local governments the relief that they were seeking. In essence, taking credit for something they had no part of providing. See, this is what I hate about politics, man. Hate it with a passion. But sometime after Independence Day, we're going to get our own little local dose here in the state of Georgia of that kind of foolishness. So get ready for it. It's coming. I guess I'll end right there. And guess I'll prepare to get my day started. And take advantage of this little bit of a break that we're going to receive before the next round of multiple campaigns that are heading our way. Well, everyone, try to have the best 4th of July celebration that you can have in the weeks leading up to that momentous day. There's a lot going on. The World Cup. There are going to be parades and events leading up to the 4th of July. Try to stay safe. I hope that everyone remains healthy. And keep in mind that no matter what happens in your life or in the life or in the future of this country, everyone should try to put civic responsibility first. Don't forget to vote. Don't forget to honor and acknowledge our shared history. So this is Big Al Perry, the Sonic Boomer.
Okay, Boomer. Okay.
Signing off. Until next time. Have a great day.